At number 10 spot, we have the Palmer House Hotel. In Sauk Centre, Minnesota lies the Palmer House Hotel. This hotel stands on the grounds of the city's first hotel, named the Sauk Centre Hotel, which ended up burning down in June 1900. When the Palmer House was built the next year in 1901 by Christina and Ralph Palmer, it served as a shelter for distant travelers and a meeting place for many of the locals of the town. However, every single year there would be more and more reports of strange occurrences happening inside of the hotel. Guests and staff alike would initially notice cold spots associated with the feeling of dread, as well as doors closing on their own, but eventually various people would report disembodied voices and tugs from the ghost of a little boy seen running in the hallways. This place was investigated by American paranormal television series The Dead Files, and during the investigation, psychic medium Amy Allen confronted a dark presence attempting to take control of her physical being. The room with the most activity is said to be room 22, where this one lady says that she made contact with a ghost child named Thomas, but you can book any other rooms if you don't want to encounter a ghost. Your choice. At a number 9 spot, we have the Kensington Runestone. This slab of stone looking like straight out of the Bible was allegedly found somewhere in central Minnesota during 1898. It was found by Olof Oman, who was a Swedish archaeologist who found it after removing a tree in his farm. The stone had Viking runes, and one of the texts read the year 1362, which ultimately suggested that Scandinavians arrived in North America 130 years before Christopher Columbus did in 1492. The text talks about a journey to discover the Vinland, which is considered to be North America, and considering it was found in Minnesota, it seems like they completed their task. So is this finally solid evidence to suggest that someone discovered America before Columbus? Well, not really. Many people believe this is a great big hoax, especially considering the fact that the family who discovered it had a book about runic scripts. And when more research was done, the language used inside of the stone was pretty modern. However, if this was true, this would be very groundbreaking news. At number 8 spot, we have Dead Man's Trail. The small town of Thief River Falls in northern Minnesota is known for two major rivers, the Red Lake and the Thief. These two rivers meet up within the town, and during the early years, it affected a lot of the development within the town. Many native tribes would battle for the land, with eventually the Ojibwa coming out on top and forcing the Dakota tribe out of the area. After years of conflict, this town eventually started to have more reports of the supernatural, with the most being reported during a hike in the Dead Man Trail. One story goes that the trail was being used as a hiding spot for a man wanted for murder, while another story talks about a Native American woman who was trying to escape from people chasing her. She ran as fast as she could, but her newborn baby would just slow her down, causing her to hide the baby beside the river. When she went back to get the infant, she discovered it had been carried away from the river. Hikers have reported witnessing her ghostly apparition, hunting for her infant to this day. At number 7 spot, we have the Mounds Theater. Built in 1922, this theater was once used as a venue for live entertainment and silent movies. While it had many good moments, there are many accidents inside of the theater. However, there are no reported deaths inside. Eventually, it would get closed down in 1967, then reopened once again in 2001. This little mix of accidents with abandonment is the perfect recipe for ghosts to live in, and this is the case made by many staff and visitors of the theater. Late night workers and janitors have reported being physically grabbed by a ghost, and others report a ghost named Red who throws things at women, and also a young girl has been reported wearing a pink dress bouncing a ball on stage when no one else is around. At number 6 spot, we have the Lake Pepin Serpent. Here comes another iteration of the Loch Ness Monster that lurks to depths below the US. Introducing the Pepe Monster, or PP Monster, whatever floats your boat, but I guarantee this beast won't. As it's mentioned from the name, this beast is located in Lake Pepin, which is basically the border between the states of Wisconsin and Minnesota. This monster became more popular in the media after businessman Larry Nielsen offered a $50,000 reward for finding this creature. After years, no one has had solid evidence of the creature. But Larry himself is convinced it exists out there and only wants to pay the money to see the creature one last time again. This is because 11 years ago, before he put the bounty out, he spotted a quote 200 feet long and 2 feet high creature going upstream. In the hump of our list, we have the Wendigo. This devil of a creature is a well-known one to many, but many don't know that the first original sightings of the Wendigo happened in the state of Minnesota. Wendigos are said to be as tall as 15 feet and very slender-like. However, don't be deceived. Because because they are said to be very strong monsters that have a never-ending desire to eat and kill humans. The legend states that a person can become a Wendigo if they decide to take part in cannibalism or any other heinous acts of humanity. These bad deeds essentially turn you into this monster, and this creature can possess you and even turn you into one itself if the person is greedy or weak enough. There are multiple myths talking about what Wendigos look like, but majority of them describe them to look like an animal but very tall, with a skull as a head, long legs, and their whole body covered in hair and drenched in blood. They are also said to be very fast and have super hearing with an amazing sense of smell, and in some cases they are said to walk on water, but they're not Jesus, remember. So be very cautious next time you try to camp in the forests of Minnesota. At number 4 spot, we have Crazy Annie's Bridge. 95 miles out of Rochester, Minnesota is a bridge known as Crazy Annie's Bridge, and it's also said to be one of the most haunted bridges in all of America. According to hauntedhopeville.com, this bridge is located in Henderson, Minnesota on 270th Street, just in case you guys want to take a quick visit. But I guarantee that's probably not the best idea. This bridge in particular is said to be haunted by a mother named Annie, who was reportedly from the early 1900s. Story goes that Annie lived in the area during the time of World War I. She fell in love with a man and started a family with 3 kids. But eventually the man would end up going overseas to fight in the war. And unfortunately, after months, the man would never end up returning. This is when the woman would go insane and eventually take her 3 children and drown them in this nearby bridge. And ever since, it's said that you can hear the cries of all 3 children and even the mother on the bridge if you decide to go on it in the middle of the night. Number 3, Hibbing High School. Hibbing High in Minnesota is not your typical average school building. Here, the staircases are marble, the railings are brass, and the art walls hold the whole almost medieval design together. The auditorium was modeled after the Capitol Theater, which is a sight in itself. And when Bob Dylan was still Robert Zimmerman and a student at Hibbing High, he performed on the auditorium stage during a talent show. But even with star performers and a stunning design, it's a lone seat inside of the auditorium that attracts the most attention from everyone. The story goes that the first stage manager named Bill was employed at the school from 1927 to the late 1960s when he passed away after a chandelier fell on his head. Rumors soon arose that Bill really never left his favorite seat in the theater named J47. In the early 90s, Chuck Perry, who at the point had been stage manager since 1979, took a series of photographs of the auditorium after a woman reported feeling a cold chill as soon as she walked around J47 row. And lo and behold, one of the photographs taken with the Polaroid camera showed a man sitting in J47 wearing formal clothes and a top hat, and you could reportedly see right through him. So is this ghost? Who knows? At number 2 spot, we have the Hairy Man of Vergas Trail. In west central Minnesota, in a small town named Vergas, is the tale of the Hairy Man legend. And no, we're not talking about some random dad who happened to have a little too much hair on their back. This legend has existed in the region for the past 6 decades, and that's only because the reports are not done happening, and every single year it seems like there's a new experience with the Hairy Man of Vergas Trail. The man is described as being 8 feet tall, having long hair, smelling like complete garbage, and always walking barefoot. In other words, you would probably think this guy was a more civilized Bigfoot than anything else. Many believed he was just an old homeless man living in the woods and didn't want anyone near his land. However, the Hairy Man gained more notoriety after a man named Ken Zitzaw returned back from driving in the woods with dents in his car hood. He claimed it was the Hairy Man. Others have reported other attacks regarding the Hairy Man, but in the end, it's not confirmed if he really exists or not, or if he's just a figment of our imagination. At number 1 spot, we have the Glen Sheen Mansion. Minnesota's most notorious killing occurred at the Glen Sheen Mansion in Duluth. Elizabeth Condon, the heiress who inherited the home, was murdered in her bed in 1977. The body of her nurse was discovered on the Great Staircase, and the home, which is now held by the University of Minnesota Duluth, is said to be the most haunted in the state. After hours, employees have heard screaming, and some claim to see a white lady dressed in really dark clothing wandering throughout the entire mansion. At number 10 spot, Pfister Hotel. In the heart of Milwaukee, Wisconsin is the infamous and luxurious Pfister Hotel. When it opened up in 1893, it was unlike any other hotel at the time. It had features such as electricity, fireproofing, and thermostat controls, which was almost unheard of at the time. It's been open for over 130 years now, and during its time, countless of people have come forward to tell about the terrifying experiences they had inside of this hotel. For example, 2015 NL MVP winner Bryce Harper stayed at the hotel back in 2012. He would go on to tell ESPN that one night he woke up to find that the table in his room had moved to the opposite side and his clothes were folded near it on the ground. The next night he said that he couldn't sleep because all he could hear was the restless spirits. He eventually decided to switch rooms, and after further research there was an article published on May 1983 claiming that the hotel was built on a private burying ground.
That explains a lot.
At number 9 spot, we have Boy Scout Lane. This isolated rural street in Linwood, Portage County is said to be one of America's most haunted roads. It's only less than a mile long, but it's notorious for the things that happen on this road. The road gets its name, Boy Scout Lane, because this is a location where a troop of Boy Scouts were murdered on their camping trip during the late 1950s. The case never ended up getting solved, but many people had their own theories. Some believe that the murderer was their scoutmaster, while others believed it was the bus driver who drove them to the woods. Regardless of whatever story is true, what is said is that these Boy Scouts haunt the forest around this stretch of road. Some who drive on this road see 4 distinct lights in the distance which are supposed to resemble the 4 Boy Scouts looking to get through the forest. But if you decide to be brave enough and camp out there, you will most likely hear the sounds of footsteps and breaking branches coming in all sorts of directions in the middle of the night. And if you sleep in your car, you may wake up with childlike handprints on the vehicle. So if you can, try to avoid this street at all costs. At number 8 spot, we have the Rhinelander Hodag. This creature, native to the town of Rhinelander, Wisconsin, is said to have the strength of an ox, the ferocity of a bear, and the cunning of a fox. In basic words, this creature is the ultimate predator. Eugene Gene Shepard, a pioneer and lumber cruiser from Rhinelander, claimed to have captured this terrifying beast on camera in 1896, right before it pounced on him from a white pine log. The most dreadful sight was captured by a camera. A hairy creature 7 feet long and 30 inches tall with threatening tusks, powerful jaws, and sharp claws. However, in this case, it turned out to be a big hoax when a group of scientists came to visit Shepard after he allegedly caught one. Regardless, this creature has carved its name in the town of Rhineland, and if you decide to take a visit of the town, you'll find its logos on the town, school, you name it. At number 7 spot, we have the Bloody Headstone at Riverside Cemetery. Opening in 1870, the Riverside Cemetery is one of the oldest cemeteries in the town of Appleton, Wisconsin. While the graveyard stacked up over the years, there's one gravesite that is significantly different from the others. This is the case of the grave of Kate Blood. In past reports, they would call Kate either a witch, a murderer, or even a victim of murder. However, it was much more different than that. Born in 1851 as Catherine Blood, she lived a short life, only having reached the age of 23 before passing away from tuberculosis in 1874. Now, around Halloween every single year, when it's a full moon, people claim to see blood ooze out of her tombstone. Her tombstone is by the back of the cemetery, which made more people believe further that they tried to hide her for a reason. At number 6 spot, we have the Vampire of Graceland Cemetery. The town of Mineral Point in southwest Wisconsin was terrorized by a vampire for a short period of time. More specifically, these sightings were first reported back in 1981. It was a snowy night in 1981 when police officer John Pepper got calls saying that there was a mysterious figure that looked like a vampire walking around the cemetery. When the officer arrived, he immediately spotted the figure, but supposedly it began to run at incredible speeds to a point when it lost the officer within seconds. After the report was completed, not another vampire would be sighted until 23 years later in 2004. This is when several witnesses claimed that a strange slender man was attacking people by jumping at them from atop trees. The police arrived again only to see the figure run away at supernatural speeds. Then in 2005, a couple was fishing when they spotted a tall, pale, slender man with alleged fangs approaching them. Luckily, they noticed it immediately and pulled out a flashlight to see more clearly, and they claimed that the light started to physically hurt the man, which led more people to believe that it was a vampire. In the hump of our list, we have the Lake Winnebago water monster. In east central Wisconsin lies the shallow freshwater lake, Winnebago. Back when the Winnebago tribe inhabited the shores of the lake, they would tell stories of a fish so big it would snatch up entire deer and moose from the edge of the water. And when I mean snatch, I mean it would eat the entire thing whole, including the antlers. It was so feared by the natives that they refused to cross the river no matter what happened. Over the next few years, reports were made, but nothing was as significant when a group of men spotted a dark figure floating near the coastlines. After further inspection, they were sure that they had spotted the monster, claiming it was around 15 to 20 feet long. Some locals claim that the monster is a prehistoric sea serpent that managed to survive through many grand level extinctions. Not much else is known about this creature, and many people to this day refuse to go near this body of water for this reason alone. But considering this lake has a max depth of 20 feet, I don't understand how something so large could fit in there. But that could just be me.
That's impossible!
At number 4, we have Summerwind. Located on the shores of West Bay Lake in Vilas County is the now abandoned mansion Summerwind, formerly known as the Lamont Mansion. Not much remains from this building as it's pretty much destroyed to a pulp, but when the building was still up, it had all sorts of controversy. During their 15-year stay at the home, the Lamont family would report many strange occurrences, but it wasn't until the mid-1930s until they decided to finally move out altogether. This was all because one evening, the basement door decided to spring open with the apparition of a man standing behind that door. As soon as they saw this, Mr. Lamont grabbed his firearm and shot at the figure twice before it just vanished out of thin air. Then in the 1970s, Arnold and Ginger Hinshaw bought the home in hopes to renovate it. Except they would be met with a whole load of issues as well. This included electrical problems, disappearing tools, and windows opening and closing by themselves while people were looking out of them. When the renovators decided to quit the project, the two decided to do it on their own, but when they removed the dresser, they noticed a crawl space that contained a real human skull and loads of black hair. At number 3 spot, we have Bloody Bride Bridge. The Bloody Bride Bridge has a wonderful name, doesn't it? Located in Stevens Point, Wisconsin, is said to be the most haunted bridge in the entire state. And I mean, just by reading the name, it's a no-brainer. However, more specifically, this is named Highway 66 Bridge, which doesn't really make a difference. Legend goes that one evening, a bride and a groom were driving over the bridge on their wedding night. When they were crossing, something happened, causing the couple to get into a fatal car accident on that very bridge. The bride ended up passing away, but nobody ever found out what happened to the groom. Ever since that evening, the bride has been reported to still be walking back and forth on the bridge. She's seen wearing the exact clothing she wore when she passed away, and that was a bloody wedding gown. Now people who have gone over this bridge have reported similar strange things. This includes many people believe they had hit a girl on the bridge, but when they walked out to inspect, there was just nothing there. But when they arrive back in their car, they only find her sitting in the back seat. Number 2, we have the Phantom Man of Highway 12. Mostly known for their Devil's Lake State Park, the town of Baraboo, northwest of Madison, has another person that is terrorizing their people. In this town is a stretch of road known as Highway 12. This is a place many say not to go near because it's the most haunted road in Wisconsin. The majority of drivers claim to see a man walking on the side of the road wearing only a green jacket and worn out jeans. However, when they pass him and continue to drive, they notice they spot the same man miles out as if he had beaten the car in speed. Then when they pass him again, it's as if he keeps transporting ahead of them. They say he keeps appearing in front of you because he's just waiting for you to pick him up. But I wouldn't recommend stopping because no one has ever lived the tale to say what happens when you decide to pick up this phantom hitchhiker. All the way at a number 1 spot, we have the Wood County Insane Asylum. If you decide to travel up the middle of Wisconsin, chances are you will enter the small town of Marshfield. This was a place that had the Wood County Asylum, which is considered by many to be a hellhole of a place. When the asylum was completed in 1911, the entire building could hold 250 patients and 19 staff. However, this would be far from a rehabilitation place because many of the patients in this asylum would only get worse the more time they spent there. Many patients didn't get the help they needed, so many of them took their own lives inside of this property. And this type of insanity even drove some of the staff to take their own lives. Now, the supernatural didn't start after the place closed down. It was happening since the opening. Apparitions of former patients and staff were seen both on the grounds and in the main building while the hospital was running. According to one tale, one guy even claimed to have seen the devil's face in the boiler room but left without coming back. Now the area is an attraction spot for ghost hunters because there's a very good chance you will encounter something if you decide to take a visit. At our number 10 spot, we have the Devil's Tramping Ground. Located in the dense forest of the Harper Crossroad area in Bear Creek, North Carolina, lies a camping ground known as the Devil's Tramping Ground. And I know, the name alone should tell you all about the place, because in local lore, they suggest this is the location where the devil, quote, tramps. And this has caused a small circle of area to become lifeless and never have the ability to grow anything. Locals have tried to revive the area by planting various seeds and also using fertilizers, but nothing seems to be able to fully grow within this circle of land. Some historians believe this was also an ancient meeting place for local Native American tribes. They would come here to do ceremonial dances and other festivals. But in the 1930s, newspapers were hit with the news that a beast was guarding these grounds. The story read, quote, "Coon and possum hunters and their dogs have been on more than one occasion chased from the vicinity of the Devil's Tramping Ground by a ferocious beast said to resemble a black bear." At a number 9 spot, we have Dana Auditorium. Located in Greensboro, North Carolina is Guilford College. This place was built all the way back in 1837, so it went through countless waves of students. Most of the places in the college are completely normal, but in the 1960s, the Dana Auditorium was constructed, and it housed the Guilford College Music Department. However, they failed to realize the history of the grounds they built on. Across the street from the campus are graves of men dating back to the 18th century who passed away during the Revolutionary War. And many believe that the location where the Dana Auditorium stands is the same location of the hospital used to take care of these soldiers, and where many ended up passing away. Many students and staff members recall feelings of cold spots and the feeling of being grabbed by something they just can't see. Others report a soldier wearing clothing from the 18th century, and they say it's a soldier who passed away at the former hospital, but he's not harmful. Instead, he just acts as a protector of the area. At number 8 spot, we have the Ship of Fire. Off the coast of Ocracoke Island, it's said that on the night of the new moon each September, you are able to spot a ghostly ship that appears out of nowhere, engulfed in flames, and it slowly goes closer and closer to land before completely vanishing out of thin air. The legend goes that this was the ship of the Palatines. These were a group of German Protestants who originally left England back in the day. As they were on the boat, they pretended to be poor and hide their golds and coins and other extremities from the corrupt captain and his crew. And this is the part when they messed up, because when they began to see the shores of North America, they just started to celebrate, showing all their valuables in a rush to get off of the land. The captain and his crew began to see the amount of wealth their passengers had and decided to postpone the docking and wait till the next day. So during the night, the captain and his crew proceeded to murder every Palatine on board, which included all sorts of ages. Then they left on small boats and they torched the entire ship behind. At number 7 spot, we have the vampire beast of Bladenboro. During the 1950s, something was going out and leaving behind a lot of dead dogs around the woods of Bladen County. Eventually, news outlets would begin to report a creature that is so strong that it's just going out and attacking everything in sight. This animal was reported to be draining the blood of neighborhood animals, 8 dogs, a family of kittens, and at least 1 lamb. Early eyewitnesses report that the beast was around 100 pounds, and many thought it was just another wolf or mountain lion. However, it wasn't until the beast attacked its first and only human. The next day, the police chief said the town of 790 people was as quiet as he's ever known it. Eventually, everyone was strapped up and were ready to kill whatever beast that was out there on a killing spree. However, the beast seemed to have vanished from the town. At number 6 spot, we have Lake Norman. You guys are gonna get sick of this, but I guess there's literally a version of the Loch Ness Monster in every single state of the US. North Carolina's version is Normie.
We can't kill a normie.
Lake Norman is the largest man-made body of fresh water in the state, and ever since, it's been under heavy speculation of what lies underneath the depths. For example, prior to the year 2000, there weren't many reports of alligators, but nowadays it seems like they're native to the lake. So that brings up the question, what else became native to Lake Norman? Many people believe the answer to that question is a beast closely resembling the Loch Ness Monster. It's a long serpentine creature with scaly fins, and it's been reported to chase fast boats and even bump into water skiers and swimmers. On one occasion, a professional scuba diver encountered this creature and said it bit off one of his flippers clean off. However, others believe it could just be a mutant fish because this is a man-made lake. Who knows, it could be from all the pollution. In the hump of our list, we have the Balsam Mountain Inn. Located in Balsam, North Carolina is a wooden hotel now known as the Grand Old Lady Hotel. But for the context of everything supernatural, we're just gonna call it by its original name, the Balsam Mountain Inn. This hotel was built all the way back in 1908 by 2 brothers-in-laws, Joseph Kenny and Walter Christie, in hopes to expand their business. While other hotels in the area were failing to start, the Balsam Mountain Inn was in a very good area, so they had plenty of business. By the late 1980s, the entire hotel was emptied out, however, as all things must come to an end. Then in December of 2017, a business person by the name of Marzina bought the hotel, but her first warnings were from the former owners and staff claiming that it was haunted. Marzina decided to report her own findings, and after sleeping in one of the rooms, she claimed to have been woken up in the middle of the night and have her blanket taken off of her. At number 4 spot, we have Brown Mountain Lights. In Pisgah National Forest is the Brown Mountain, and many visitors and locals have reported a series of ghost lights or orbs that pop out of nowhere. According to Cherokee history, a significant battle between the Cherokee and the Catawba Indians took place at Brown Mountain around the year 1200 AD. The unexplained lights are thought to be the result of Indian maidens still looking for their husbands who perished in the battle. These lights can be seen in many different colors, including white, red, yellow, orange, and even blue. On top of that, the lights have been inspected by the US government 3 times, numerous times by private companies, and frequently by the Appalachian University students. And no one has been able to give a proper proper explanation to this. And to this day, these lights will always be a mystery. So the best way to find out about them is just to go and check them out for yourself. At our number 3 spot, we have the Highland Hospital. Located in Asheville, North Carolina is the infamous Highland Hospital. It was built in 1904 by Dr. Robert S. Carroll, and it became a mental institution to take care of those who had nervous diseases. As the years went by, the hospital would decay from the inside out. In 1948, a fire engulfed a section of the hospital, causing the deaths of American novelist and painter Zelda Fitzgerald along with 8 other patients. For those who don't know, Zelda Fitzgerald was the wife of F. Scott Fitzgerald, who is the one who wrote The Great Gatsby. And she was in the hospital because she had to undergo an electroshock therapy but got trapped due to this fire. Nowadays, the place is a recovery home for teens and young adults, but many of the residents and workers claim to see the spirit of Zelda. She can be seen walking through the halls, and others even report talking to Zelda, but much of that conversation is a whole lot of confusion, and she ends up vanishing by the end of it. At number 2 spot, with the Biltmore Estate. Originally built to be a vacation home for George Washington Vanderbilt, the Biltmore Estate was a grand mansion that happened to be the largest home in the country at the time. Several past guests and even employees have related tales of hearing a voice continually speaking the name George in the hallways. It is believed that Edith Vanderbilt herself, who is thought to be another spirit that is said to also reside in the mansion, is walking the halls and maybe looking for her husband. Some of the groundskeepers who worked that night had overheard party-like conversations, glass clinking, and laughter. However, the only issue is that nobody is hosting any sort of party during these times. The family never had a pet, but visitors claim to see a headless orange cat walking out in the garden and usually shows up before bad luck strikes a person. The area around the estate is pretty haunted as well because back in the day, many hangings were done and these spirits are still trapped in the area. At number 1 spot, we have the Helen's Bridge. In Asheville, North Carolina is one of the coolest looking, but also one of the scariest bridges in America. You guys can be the judge of that by the end of this point. It's been said that Helen's Bridge has been haunted for nearly 100 years since its construction in 1909. The bridge was created in order to have a roadway connecting a mansion to the rest of Asheville, but it just made sense at the time, right? So how did the bridge get its name? Story goes that a single woman named Helen lived in Asheville with her infant daughter. One day while cooking, a large fire engulfed the entire home, causing her to rush out of it, leaving her daughter behind. The entire house would end up burning down, and after she received news of her daughter's passing, she just completely broke down mentally. Then one day, Helen decided to take a walk to the nearby woods, and before coming across this bridge to the mansion, she hung herself on one of the steel posts. People who have driven to the bridge have recalled dealing with car trouble despite no prior symptoms. Issues like drained batteries, engine stalling, and other mechanical issues were said to have been reported. Well, these are the top 10 North Carolina scary urban legends. What do you guys think? Leave a comment down below, but don't forget to like and subscribe for some more content. I'm your host Andrew, and I hope you guys have a scary day.